So one thing that Wuthering Waves has definitely been trying to improve, especially over the version 2.0 period, is their kind of relations with other countries outside of China and just kind of improving collaborations and their notoriety in a lot of Asian countries. Now, this is mainly to do with like Japan and Korea, and obviously we've seen a lot of events to do with Japan and Korea, which have actually really helped them out in the long run to get even more people talking about the game and get it more recognized in these areas so they can actually get onto even bigger projects, which obviously we've seen in the cases of Samsung, who is actually a really massive company over in Korea, who've actually collaborated with Wuthering Waves, which obviously shows you how big they've actually gotten over in Korea, as Samsung is one of the largest companies over in Korea. But one of the main kind of regions that, Wuthering Waves have actually been focusing on recently has been Japan, and they've actually had some massive success over there by running a couple of events, but also having some new announcements come out from the JP side of Wuthering Waves, which are very exciting, and it's all due to a lot of this advertising. But before I get into this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and also go to GameStop, use my code CASA, get 10% off. Again, they've got a ton of really cool stuff over there. I definitely recommend checking it out. Yeah, let's get back into the video. So some of these announcements that actually happened were to do with the voice actors. Now, obviously, we had the version 2.2 quest, which was absolutely amazing, and obviously with this came a couple of new characters, including Chikona. Now, obviously, with like a lot of one of those characters, we never really find out the voice actor until their playable character comes out, but it seems like they're actually releasing a lot of the voice actors, especially over in Japan, for these. Now, obviously, the voice acting has always been great in Wuthering Waves, but it's going to get even better, and this is especially due to a lot of the advertising going on in Japan, because they've managed to get some pretty big voice actors for these roles. Now, not to mention, the English voice acting for Wuthering Waves is already great, and they've had some really great people working on it, especially Kartethia's voice actor, who recently did the story quest. I thought that was absolutely amazing, but it seems like Japan also has a really, really good cast, which obviously shows the growth of Wuthering Waves and who they're actually managing to pull in with a lot of their kind of advertising and a lot of their notoriety over in Japan. Now, obviously, Chikona's voice actor is actually Ikumi Hasegawa. Now, obviously, as you can see, you probably recognize some of these characters. You got one of the main characters from 86. We got Bocchi the Rock. We got Desmi, who was from a pretty popular show a couple of months ago. We got Asuna from Blue Archive, who's a very popular character. We got Yusuf Casablanca, who obviously is from Azure Lane. Lambda from Eminence in Shadow. So again, there's a ton of really, really popular characters here, which really show how much Wuthering Waves have actually grown in Japan, in the sense of they're actually managing to pull in these voice actors who are very talented and to actually have some roles behind them, because there are people over in Japan who follow these voice actors and actually watch whatever they do just because it's them. And honestly, I think that could actually bring over a couple of players obviously interested in what how voice acting work is like in Wuthering Waves. But not only that, as we go through this list of people that have actually been added to the game, we can see that they've actually gone for a little bit of a mix in terms of experience, but also in terms of a couple of like new and upcoming voice actors, which is actually very exciting. And obviously, yeah, if we go to the next voice actor, obviously for Kartethia, it's actually someone called Yu Asakawa, who's actually voiced in a lot of older anime, so obviously, she's much more experienced with things, and I think this is really going to help out, especially with the Japanese side of the voicing, because they can provide that little bit of experience to the cast, but also help out some of the kind of newer voice actors who have actually been entrusted to some of the roles in Wuthering Waves, which I think is actually a really good dynamic to go for Korea games, because obviously a lot of people do get sometimes bored of just how many of the same, person's voice you hear in like every single anime. Is like, oh, it's that person, oh, it's that person. And obviously sometimes it can take it out of the story a little bit, but sometimes you do need those kind of experienced voice actors to keep everything pretty smooth and to keep the voice acting quality to a really important level. And obviously it is important though to get some new voice actors in there to make it sound a little bit more fresh, which I think is something that Wuthering Waves has definitely done. And even sometimes whenever I play Wuthering Waves, I do like to switch it over to the JP dub, because again, it's just something very interesting to listen to. And obviously they've got a ton of really cool voice actors actually working on it. And obviously recently we got the new 5-star as well that came out, which is Cantarella. She's also got a pretty big voice actor as well, being Mai Nakahara, who's actually voiced in a ton of anime as well, which again, I feel like she's pretty experienced. She's voiced Parano. She's also voiced a lot of kind of gacha game characters, which again, I think there's also a big mix of people that have not only just voiced in anime, but people who have voiced in like, gacha games a lot, because let's be real, Wuthering Waves is a gacha game. It's not an anime, and these people know how to do gacha game voices well, which honestly I think is another really, really big W for Korea Games there. And obviously, yeah, she's voiced Azila and also Akagi from Azure Lane, and also I'm pretty sure Blaze is from a gacha game as well. But again, there's so many characters there which she's voiced, and obviously that's going to add that experience whenever it comes to gacha game voicing, because maybe a lot of these voice actors are very talented whenever it comes to anime voice acting, and they're very used to just like doing tons and tons of episodes and tons of episodes, but maybe they're not so used to voicing in a game or voicing in a gacha game at that fact. which again, you know, these people can go ahead and help them in terms of giving that a little bit of advice and experience and things like that. Now, obviously, I don't know how closely they all work together. They might not even work that closely together, but even in the kind of like cast dynamic, I think it's good to have a little bit of a mix because, again, as I said, some of these more experienced voice actors can kind of tie it all in together, and then maybe some of the less experienced ones can add a little bit of freshness to the entire cast, which I think is great. Now, obviously, finally, we had the Carlotta voice actor a little bit of a while ago, who was also a very, very big voice actor, with it actually being Kana Ueda, who voices characters like Rin and also Yoimiya, Ishtar. You know, there's so many, you know, voices that she also voices as well, which again is great. And obviously, a lot of these popular voice actors coming over in Japan is due to the fact that, you know, Wuthering Waves has been massively growing in that region, and maybe that was the plan as to why they are actually targeting it so hard, because that is what Wuthering Waves are doing at the moment in terms of advertising. They are targeting areas like Japan and Korea and doing a lot of events over there. They've currently got an event going over on in Korea at the moment, but obviously, you know, the other week they had the IRL event over in Osaka in Japan, which got a lot of people interested in the game, and obviously, you know, it makes it to the voice actors and stuff like that who realize, oh, this game's getting pretty popular. Hey, maybe I want to voice for this. Maybe I want to work on this as well, which honestly, you know, is great for the game because not only, you know, are you reaching out to these really big voice actors who have such a name for themselves, but also, you know, there's a reason why they're big. They're good, you know, they're good at their job and they're good at what they do, which obviously is going to increase the overall quality of the voice acting in Wuthering Waves on the Japanese side. And obviously, you know, as I said in the beginning of the video, the English side is still doing excellently as well, and they're managing to find some really cool voice actors that are really good at what they do. And I played in the English dub for the main story quest, and I thought it sounded perfectly fine. Obviously, you know, we had a couple of issues with the English voice acting during the beginning stages of Wuthering Waves, but obviously, you know, they fixed that up. They either got some new people in there to train the voices or whatever, and now it actually sounds fine. I don't think I had any issues with the main story quest, and, you know, I feel like the Japanese side also went pretty smoothly as well. For a lot of people, I haven't seen anybody complaining about it. So again, you know, they've got some really talented people working on it, which obviously is going to improve the overall quality of Wuthering Waves in general. Now, I don't know anything about the Chinese voice acting or anything like that, but again, I feel like they do have some pretty good people working on that as well. But it does pretty much just seem like Kuro Games does know when to actually introduce these voice actors and when to get these big voice actors and kind of high quality stuff into the game, which I think is great, and it's going to definitely help to improve that quality aspect of the game, because obviously, yes, you know, Wuthering Waves is known as a pretty high graphics game in terms of the actual looks, you know, the style of the characters, the actual style of the world itself. And obviously, you know, it's going to be pretty terrible if you have that contrast of high quality world, high quality character, and then you have low quality kind of voice acting. It's just not going to sound very good, is it? And obviously, you know, they've actually, you know, picked a team of some very good voice actors here to actually, you know, voice these characters and, you know, make it sound good. And obviously that's going to reflect very well with the whole world and make it seem much more immersive for a lot of people, which I'm very excited about. And obviously, you know, I definitely will be giving the Japanese side of Wuthering Waves a little bit more of a go, because obviously, you know, I like to hear a lot of these voice actors involved with the kind of project. And, you know, I will still be using the English version, obviously, you know, for the story. I cannot focus without using the English voice acting in the story and trying to actually focus in on the story. But whenever I'm running around the world, maybe I'll switch to Japanese every now and again, because again, they have, you know, managed to get some really cool voice actors on board. Yeah, that's about all I got for this video. If you guys did enjoy it, then don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this. Do you think that these voice actors are going to make a big difference to Wuthering Waves? Or do you think that it's not that much of a big deal and that you think that, you know, it doesn't really matter what voice actors they use? I honestly think it does make a big difference, but hey, yeah, let me know down in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. That's all. See ya.